What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late in the day on Thursday. No news is good news? I don't know. That's the saying. I don't know really how it applies to the Green Bay Packers today, but no signings of note, no activity of note. The Packers have yet to announce the signing of Jimmy Graham or Mo Wilkerson. I've been asked about that about 4 billion times today. I know they always wait there at 1265 Lombardi to complete physicals and sign their contracts and dot their I's and cross their T's. So perhaps that is the reason for the delay. Perhaps they're pursuing someone else and waiting to wrap that up. Maybe they have someone in-house that they're about to re-sign. Any number of things could be delaying that. But while I'm waiting for any kind of news to break, I thought I'd jump on here and talk to you fine folks. Hello from Columbus, Indiana. What's up, Andrew? Thanks for joining us. Any news on Honey Badger? No, I have not heard a thing. I have not heard the Packers connected to the Honey Badger. I know there's been a lot of interest from Green Bay Packers fans, but I haven't heard him linked to any other teams other than just speculation from media members. I haven't heard anything from him. I haven't heard anything from his people. I haven't heard anything from any teams. Now, that could be by design, everyone keeping it under wraps. I know the obvious connection would be the New York Giants, where his former defensive coordinator now resides. But, yeah, no movement there that I can see. Let's see. Let Morgan Walk sign the Badger. Joe, it's a possibility, I guess, but I tend to think Tyrann Mathieu is going to get paid big bucks, and I don't think that's going to be in Green Bay. Joe, thanks a lot. John Rahor's in the house, everyone. True fan in the house here this afternoon. How is the Cousins signing going to affect Rodgers' deal? Will it pump it way up? Not necessarily. What will be interesting to see is how much Rodgers tries to parlay what Cousins has done in the area of a fully guaranteed deal, and how that affects what kind of negotiations he has with the team. I tend to think they'll get, while not maybe a fully guaranteed contract, I think a lot more of it will be guaranteed than perhaps would have been prior to Cousins' deal. But that's something that will undoubtedly play out here over the course of the summer. Denzel Ward in the draft. Travis, I think he'd be a great addition. I'd be very surprised if he's available to them at 14. But we'll see. There's always the possibility they trade up if they love him. And he's there around 8 or 9. Joel Nagler, what's up? Hello from Oklahoma. What's up, Matthew? Thanks for joining us. Kelly, hello. Thanks for hopping on board. Can the Packers match the offer that was given to Jordy Nelson? No, Jeffrey. He is gone. He is signed. He is a Raider for the next 2 years. Cousins is the highest paid until Rodgers re-ups. Yeah, most likely, unless Matt Ryan signs a deal prior, which will undoubtedly make him the highest paid. It's always, not always, but most always, the latest quarterback to sign is the highest paid player in the league. It's almost how it goes. We need some players in the secondary. Who do you think we will get? Mary Beth, I know they have their eye on Rashon Melvin, who is a corner who was with the Colts for the last 2 years. Outside of that, I haven't heard them connected to anybody. Undoubtedly, they are looking at the secondary market and free agency, and undoubtedly, they'll be looking at the draft to get 1 or 2 guys there. So, we'll see. There's a long way to go in free agency yet. We're still in the first 48 hours. A lot of silly money has been spent. The Packers will undoubtedly let that fizzle out and then start picking over the second and third tier guys. So I don't think they're done by any means, but I don't think they're going to be in a hurry to sign just anybody. Think there's any interest in Michael Crabtree to Green Bay? I suppose they would consider it. Obviously, they've let Jordy go. Now they have a bit of a hole there, the depth chart. They did bring back Geronimo Allison. They've obviously got guys like D'Angelo Yancey and Michael Clark, who they like. But you have to think they're probably going to draft someone as well. I'd be surprised if they spent free agency dollars on a guy like Crabtree, who is a good receiver and I think could help them, but doesn't exactly bring the kind of speed that maybe they're looking for or they need on the outside. That said, I wouldn't completely dismiss it. I think it's a possibility, but not one that I think is a likelihood. If we don't add more cornerbacks in the draft, or in free agency, does that mean automatically they take one in the first round of the draft? Not necessarily. I think it increases the likelihood, absolutely. But if there's a guy, let's say, Josh Jackson is sitting there at 14, there's every chance, obviously, that, needing that position to be filled will compel them to make that selection. However, if they're not high on Josh Jackson, say they don't have a first round grade on him, there's a good possibility they look elsewhere. Maybe they have an edge rusher graded higher and they take that. They're going to be true to their board up to a point. There's always going to be a point where the need is going to drive that selection in the first round if there's a gaping hole in the roster, but they're not going to make a huge reach. If the grades are similar, yeah, they'll probably err towards the side of, okay, this is the position we need. But it all depends on their grade and their board and how they feel about a guy comparative to other like-graded prospects. Is Demarius Randall going to be an all-pro too? Who knows, Daniel? They're switching him to safety out there in Cleveland, so I guess it's a possibility. Who is our next wide receiver? Geronimo? Right now, as it stands here on March 15th, yeah, he would be lining up opposite Davante Adams if they were kicking off tomorrow. But obviously they don't. There's a long way to go. Got to think free agency and the draft have yet to play out, and we'll see what they do at the wide receiver spot. It's Davenport at 14. Calling it, says Sean. I don't know, man. Opinions on him are very mixed, both in the media and in the NFL. From scouts I talked to when I was at the Combine in Indy, people either really like him and see a lot of promise, or they see someone who's going to flame out in the NFL. I didn't really get a sense of a lot of kind of in-between thinking when it came to Davenport. The sense I get is that the Packers are not enamored with him enough to take him at 14. That could always be a smokescreen. It is lying season. So we'll see. Davenport at 14 would surprise me, though. I see Brian Nagler's chiming in, my cousin. What's up, Brian? Honey Badger is too expensive. I tend to agree. That's what I said at the top of the video. I know the fit would be good. I think he'd be intriguing. There are two things working against that happening, though. One, as you mentioned, Brian, the expense. You got to think he's going to get paid big time. And as my colleague Pete Doherty wrote earlier, I think it was yesterday at PackersNews.com, he would definitely come in way below the Ron Wolf thresholds that Gutekunst has said he is going to uphold, as every general manager has since Wolf came on board. I think he's staying something like 5'8" something. That's well below the 5'10.5" threshold that the Packers use at cornerback. Now he can be a special player. He is a playmaker, and there's no doubting that. So maybe they make an exception, but I think it's a real long shot, him coming to Green Bay. Cobb will be the number 2 wide receiver. Yeah, in the sense that he's the probably, second most talented after Davante Adams, but he'll be playing primarily in the slot, and you got to think they're looking for someone to play the perimeter opposite Davante Adams. If we cut Bulaga, what'll that add to the available cash? Between $4 and $5 million, I believe. Byron Maxwell. Well, Nick, I suppose it's a possibility. I tend to doubt it, but you never know. That's the kind of guy they have to be looking at. Second and third tier, so we'll see. Ward at 14. James, if he's there, I think they have to seriously consider it, but I'll be very surprised if he lasts to 14. Good question. Will Graham take 88, or will he have to take something else because of Montgomery? I'm sure they're going to work that out. Maybe he offers him some money for 88. We'll see. Maybe they give Montgomery a more running back appropriate number. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Derwin James, a possibility at 14. Absolutely, Michael. That's a guy they talked to at the Combine. His shot has seemingly shot up since the Combine. A lot of that, though, is, I think, media-driven. We see a lot of, all of a sudden, top 10 selections for James in mock drafts. You do wonder if that's more the media catching up to what the NFL is thinking about, or if he's been there all along. Or, if maybe the media is kind of inflating him a little bit after his really exceptional showing at the combine. But I think he's got to be in the equation, and he's got to be someone the Packers are looking at. I tend to buy that he's a top 10 guy. Maybe that's a target the Packers try and jump up for, but he would add a lot of athleticism and a lot of versatility to their secondary. There's no doubt about that. Is that a Brewers hat? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. My new Brewers hat, ready for the season. Who do the Nagler's kids think Green Bay will select at 14? I don't know. I can go get them. They're out in the hall making a ton of noise. Which current Packer players need the most improvement? Ooh, good question, Brandon. Let's go with Jason Spriggs, right? He's obviously got to come back from a big injury, but they're going to need him if Balaga starts on the PUP. Even if Spriggs is back, he's got to improve. Montrevious Adams is a guy who's got to show something. Vince Beagle as well. Do you think Green Bay will draft our future quarterback or try to groom Kaiser to possibly take Aaron Rodgers' place? I think it's a bit early. I don't think Kaiser is the heir apparent. I think he's someone they want to develop and maybe flip down the road for a future draft pick. I don't think they draft a successor in this draft. I think possibly maybe if someone, maybe one of the top quarterbacks really falls, maybe they go there in the second round, but I would really doubt it. It would really depend on how they feel about the prospect in question and what Gutekunst thinks about Aaron Rodgers' remaining years in Green Bay. Rodgers is about to sign another extension that's going to keep him in Green Bay for a while. Certainly not the kind of situation that Thompson was in when he had a quarterback who was hemming and hawing very publicly about retirement in Brett Favre. So I think it still feels a little early for that, but you never know. Your take on allowing medical marijuana for concussions, man, and CTE, I'm all for it. I think marijuana should be legal, period. But yeah, definitely. I know, talk to anybody in the NFL who has self-medicated in that way. I think it's a hell of a lot healthier than the drugs and the painkillers that they are basically forced to shoot into themselves week in and week out to stay on the field in some cases. It's a bit absurd if you just look at the science that they're, even in states where it's legal, the NFL still criminalizes it basically. But yes, I'm all for it. Do you think McCrory was mentioned in the Randall trade? I had someone ask me that on Twitter today. I tend to doubt it. The Randall trade sure felt like we'll give you the guy we want to get rid of for the guy you want to get rid of. It was much more for the Packers wanting to get control of that first pick on the third day. You see, obviously, after the end of the day, McCrory was traded to the Patriots. Maybe the Packers asked about it, but I tend to think they were looking more about getting rid of Randall than adding someone from the outside. What are the Packers going to do with Callahan? Kelly, I tend to think they'll let him stick around for the summer. They need 4 arms in camp. McCarthy talked about that 2 weeks ago, wanting 4 bodies, 4 quarterbacks in training camp. Yeah, I think Callahan's number 4, and he'll get a chance to compete. Now, how much of a true chance? Probably not a great one, but I think they'll definitely bring him to camp. Now, I say that and watch him get cut tomorrow. But right now, as we sit here, 6 o'clock, whatever, on a Thursday, I think he'll be in camp come July. Terrelle Pryor is still out there. Worth the risk? I tell you what, the longer he is out there, I think he's worth kicking the tires on. If you can get him on a 1-year deal, I know that's kind of been what he's done. Yeah, I think he's got the tools that are tantalizing. Of course, you do wonder about bringing a guy in as a bit of a Ronin who you're not really developing in your program and in your offense. You're trying to stick him in there. That's always a concern, and not just with Pryor, with any free agent wide receiver. It's something the Packers haven't done a whole lot of, whether it was, Ted or maybe now Gutekunst. But we'll see. Like I said, the longer he's out there, the more you think the possibility increases. Taylor, do you feel the Packers have gotten better? It's impossible to say sitting here right now. We'll see. The new league year is barely 48 hours old. I echo what Gutekunst said when he talked to us, when he talked about it being a big puzzle. They've just started putting it together. You got to look at the whole picture when it's complete. And then you can make a judgment about, all right, perhaps they've taken steps forward here and they've improved there. But 2 days into the building process, it's really hard to say. Mo Claiborne, someone asked. I said it yesterday, I'll say it again today. Makes a lot of sense. You got to think he will not break the bank. He's someone with starting experience who, he's not going to come in and be Dion in his prime, but he is going to be a competent body that you can put out there, something they are sorely lacking at the moment. Here we'll go with a bag of shells at corner. Nice. Do you still think they look at the tight end Goddard in the draft? Yeah, I think they'll look at all the tight ends in the draft. I think they absolutely have to draft somebody, look at somebody at that position this year. I mean, they've now, gone out 3 years in a row and gotten basically the top tight end in free agency each year. Yeah, that's no way to live. You got to go and develop somebody. Richard Rodgers back in the day was hopefully going to be that guy. Turns out he wasn't. I still think they may bring him back even, but I definitely think they have to invest something in that position, especially when you've got a head coach who runs an offense where, the evidence over the years has proven that it's at its best when it has an effective presence at tight end. So go draft one, go develop one. You've had ample opportunities throughout the years, and they've kind of eschewed it. I think it's time to put some resources into it. If they had Rashon Melvin and a DB in round one, this is a chance to be one of Pettin's most talented defenses. Yeah, I mean, the possibility's there, no doubt about it. Obviously, you got to see how that all plays out. Melvin is hitting the market because, he is still relatively young and has been injured a whole lot throughout his career. He's coming off, a season where he ended up on IR. But he did play very well in the games that he was in last season. So, and then you throw in first-round cornerback. Well, first-round cornerbacks you would hope would step in and contribute right away. But, hey, man, busts happen all the time. So it's no sure thing. Will our scheme allow Mo, Clark, and Daniels on the field at the same time? I would think there's going to be a whole lot of that. Yeah, definitely. It's hard to say with any kind of authority what the scheme will be until we get some kind of clue from Pettin on usage throughout the first part of the year. In Buffalo, he used a whole lot of four-man fronts. In New York with the Jets, he used a lot of three-man fronts. And in Cleveland, as a head coach, he used a real good mix. So a lot of it, as he said, is going to be dependent on the, guys that he has available to him. He's going to mold his scheme to fit his personnel. So right now, I would think, he's going to want those three guys on the field a whole lot together. Pass rush makes defensive backs look good. I couldn't agree more. I've been preaching it for 2 years. They keep passing on pass rushers and keep wondering why they can't cover for 8-9 seconds. I'm right there with you. Just ask Callahan Kelly. I like it. Everyone's fuming. James, I hear you, man. But that's part of the game. People get upset because their team's not making moves. And I try and calm people down. It's part of the game, man. It's fun. Rick, this is very nice of you to say. Thank you very much. Kenny Clark will be the star of the defense next year. Peter, I think he was well on his way last year. But, I tend to agree. Young, rising talent. Really came into his own last season. I think he's going to be on his way to being a household name next year. Let's see. Oh, Lois Alexander from Louisville in the second. Whew, I'll be surprised if he's there in the second. And I'd have to say he does come in under the Wolf thresholds height-wise. So they would have to make an exception if they were going to take him. Brian, the cornerback from Indy that they are rumored to have interest in, it's not a rumor, it's reported by my colleague, Ryan Wood. They like Melvin because he's still young. He is undrafted. He has bounced around the league. But his 2 years in Indy, especially his 2017 tape, is really, really promising. He played extremely well in the 10 games he appeared in last year, including a game where he played Antonio Brown about as well as he was played all year long by an individual corner. He's not exactly a ball hawk, but he does get his hands on the ball. Willing tackler, a guy who's not afraid to stick his nose in there. He's somebody who would definitely improve their defense and help them at a place where clearly they have depth issues at the moment. Tamba Ali, an option. I tend to doubt it, Michael, because he is so old, but you never know. They took a chance on Peppers late in his career. Peppers just re-signed with the Panthers today. I mean, that guy is a modern marvel. But Ali, I think he could come in and I think he could help. The issue there, he's probably just a bit of a pass rush specialist. He's not going to give you anything on special teams. He's probably not going to play on early downs. So now you're taking up a roster spot for a guy who has one very defined job. Now, if he can get to the quarterback with regularity, that makes it worth it. But the question is, can he? Will he? Is he going to hold up? Those are the questions they're going to have to ask. Andy signed Junior Gillette on a one-year deal. I tend to doubt it. I tend to think that Mo Wilkerson signing will take them out of the running for most defensive linemen going forward. The other issue there, obviously, is he's got a lot of baggage off the field that comes with him. I'm not sure that's the kind of road they're going to go down, but you never know. It's possible. Who should the Packers trade for? Well, that's a good question, Brendan. Maybe they have their eye on somebody. It's impossible to say. People bring these things up, and I can throw a name out there, but inevitably there's some no trade clause or which doesn't really exist in the NFL, but some bonus coming up or a roster structure, a cap hit or something that I'm not privy to because I don't have the numbers in front of me, and so then I get ridiculed. So I won't throw out random names, but I will say Gutekunst does keep saying how they're going to be exploring all options between now and the start of camp, and he keeps bringing it up when asked about the cornerback position. So I do wonder if there is a corner somewhere in the league that they have their eye on that maybe they're going to make a play on. It's just a guess, trying to read between the lines, but it's definitely something to watch for. Is Ahmad Brooks still under contract? No, Gabriel. He became a free agent as of yesterday. I tend to think they will try to get younger. They'll try to let guys like Reggie Gilbert come to the fore. Obviously, Vince Beagle will get more playing time. Maybe after the draft, they look at their roster and they feel like they want to kind of beef up on the outside linebacker spot. Maybe they bring him back. Or maybe before then. It's impossible to say. I do think they're going to try and get a little younger there, though. Do you think the Bears will be any trouble this year? Dimitri, you can't write them off. I mean, Nagy is a good offensive mind. You never really know how assistants are going to make that jump to head coach and what kind of coach they'll be. I know he's got a lot of really good ideas on the offensive side of the ball. They've gone and got that young quarterback a lot of weapons at tight end, at wide receiver. They've got really exciting players holding over. Tariq Cohen, he's a problem. So, yeah, you can't write them off. They should be interesting, to say the least. Reggie Gilbert played very well last year when he had the chance. I agree. I think it was ridiculous that it took for them being out of playoff contention to see the field. I would have thought they would want to get him on the field while they still had a chance, because they were wasting snaps on Kyler Fackrell. Who starts opposite Adams at wide receiver? At this point, if they were playing tomorrow, it'd probably be Geronimo Allison, but a long way to go. I get asked about Colin Cowherd on every Facebook Live I do. You guys, if you don't like Colin Cowherd, and it's really clear you don't listen to him. Don't talk about him. Don't bring him up, because that's the oxygen that keeps him alive. I would love to see Vince Beagle produce really well. Montre, obviously the Packers would as well. They need him to. Obviously he missed all the offseason last year. He missed the first 6 weeks of the year. Didn't even put on pads until week 7. So, we'll see what he brings them after a full offseason of work, if he can stay healthy and obviously learning a new defense, etc. But hey, they invested they made him the pick there in the top of the 4th round when they traded down out of the position where they could have drafted T.J. Watt. They took King and Beagle instead. Beagle's got to produce to make that worthwhile. I saw someone asked about Moncrief. He signed today. I think it was with Baltimore. Are the Packers maybe better at edge rusher than we think with Gilbert and Beagle? It's possible. I would be very surprised if they were banking on that. Now, that's something I think Ted Thompson would do. He would say, well, we're going to count on development from within. I tend to think Gutekunst will be a little bit more active. But yeah, there's every possibility they think, okay, we got these 2 guys. We see them making big jumps, and maybe they do. Maybe they think they feel really good about them, and maybe they think that those guys are a lot better than most people think. I don't think they can afford to think that way. I think they got to find someone to bring some heat off the edge, but it's always a possibility that they're counting on development from within, especially when they don't have a ton of cap space to work with. So, that may be something they're counting on. Do you see us trading up in the draft for a corner? Joe, I think if there's a position they're targeting with a trade up, if they were to trade up, now there haven't been any reports that they are going to trade up. I know Tom Silverstein wrote a couple days ago that they could. And if they do, I would tend to think it would be somebody like Derwin James or Ward from Ohio State. I do think those would be the targets. I don't see, unless maybe if Chubb starts sliding, maybe they go up and get him, but I'd be very surprised if that happened. Hope we'll see some more 4-3 this year, honestly. Gabriel, it's a very good possibility. The way Pettine's talked about wanting to mold what he does, not only to the opponent, but to this, the players and the personnel on hand. I think, you'll see some 4-man fronts, definitely. Thoughts on Ridley? I like him. I don't love him. I don't love him at 14, that's for sure. I do think he'll go in the 1st round, but I don't think he's going to be a top 15 pick. Any chance Rodgers doesn't want to come back after this season? Yeah, I suppose there's always a chance for something, but I tend to doubt it. I think he's going to get PAID paid in a few months, and he's going to be in Green Bay for a while. Trade for Martavis Bryant. Well, Ian, he would definitely solve their speed problem. The issue with Bryant is twofold. One, there's clearly attitude issues there that have been going on for years with the Steelers. Not sure they're going to be trading for that. And then 2, he's 1 strike away from a year-long suspension. So it's hard to give up assets and then go get a guy who could make a mistake at any minute and then basically give you absolutely nothing. So I would be very surprised if the Packers made a move like that. Defense will be the pick at 14. I tend to agree. Thoughts on White Castle burgers? I don't have any thoughts on the burgers, but the fries only come in one size, as the great Beastie Boys once said. All right, everybody, I'm gonna head. But thanks so much for the questions. I'm sorry if I didn't get to yours. They do come by fast and furious. Thank you so much. If anything goes down tonight, I'll be back on, so keep your notifications on. In the meantime, make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot, everyone.